About what?
You serious? You don't know? Everybody knows you never go full retard.
California and Governor Gavin Newsom have gone full retard. After shutting down the state previously, and subsequently allowing massive numbers of people to amass in protests where they were packed together like sardines, followed by increased testing for the virus, which predictably and mathematically yielded higher numbers of positive cases, the state is once again locking down. Question: does anybody disagree that the last lockdown was severely damaging to the economy? Children were forced to stay home, schools shut down, parents could not go out and earn a living, and we had to rely on federal money, federal dollars, which was money printed out of thin air, which only in all the world the US has the ability to do solely by virtue of the fact that we are the world's reserve currency, which, if we continue to abuse this privilege and power, will cease to be the case in the near future. So now there is a big uptick in the number of positive cases. And yes, according to the left-leaning politicians, the massive protests in the streets did not contribute one iota to the spread of coronavirus, as having the correct political ideology makes one immune. The virus respects Black Lives Matter. This is scientifically proven. By the way, what I just stated might not be 100% true, as BLM managed to really flex their muscles and demonstrate their power with their shutdownstem hashtag, which closed various laboratories, Caltech, and other places of scientific inquiry on June 10th in an effort to no doubt suppress the spread of the virus. Or perhaps it might have been the science that they were stopping that would dictate otherwise. Could be either. It was a completely shrewd move, because now in New York City, if you go into the hospital with COVID, they are by law not allowed to ask you whether or not you participated in a protest, because, and this is labor saving, it would be a complete waste of time, because scientifically speaking, as previously mentioned, no virus could have spread during the riots. Oh, sorry about that. I meant protests. I have to continue to propagate this leftist media narrative that will find no fault with the lootings, the killings, the burning down of buildings, the destruction, and the graffiti, and the hatred perpetrated during these largely peaceful protests. But of course, in good old California, because scientifically it's proven that the protests aren't going to spread anything, that definitely should not stop them from sending out police to arrest someone who is paddleboarding off the coast of Malibu. Because, you know, you're 100 meters offshore, alone on a paddleboard, you're definitely at risk of spreading COVID to copious numbers of people.
You cut him off!
Yep, this paddleboarder was arrested after...
But you tell law enforcement to go and arrest the paddleboarder, and then tell them to stand down while massive protests and rioting are ongoing, while they destroy local small businesses, claiming in the meantime that the disease could not be spread by thousands of people packed together like sardines, ideological protection once again, while allowing law enforcement to be degraded, spat upon, and assaulted, telling them to stand down. And if they do the slightest thing wrong, you ignore the people that are assaulting them, but investigate law enforcement. And now you tell them to go ahead and enforce another round of lockdowns. Do you not think that there will be a breaking point at which neither they nor the public will continue to carry out this charade to respect your authority?
And you will respect my authority!
No. Law enforcement will not stand beside these politicians. Already in Orange County, sheriffs have declared that they will not go along with the asinine Gavin Newsom. Schools will be closed for the fall, just in time for federal elections. I'm sure it's coincidental. Do you want to keep the least vulnerable part of the population home, not send them to school, furthering the divide between the rich who can afford homeschooling, who can afford tutors, and spend their time ensuring that their kids are educated, while meanwhile lower income families have other things to worry about and will be less likely to enforce their child's educational needs. You are widening the chasm between rich and poor by doing this. Now parents will have to find a way to mind their children at home, rather than returning to work if they even can, because most of the local businesses are going to be shut down. Small independent businesses, just barely eking out a living, will be unable to open their doors. But of course, big corporations like Walmart and like liquor stores and marijuana shops, which keep people sedated, are able to lobby politicians in an effort to open their doors. And what's going to happen during this lockdown, they are going to siphon off all the customers that these small businesses work overtime in order to engage and to keep. And guess what? Walmart and big box chains that can lobby, their competition goes 6 feet under. And the state's budget and financial situation, which is already in a major mess as they're unable to collect sales taxes and incomes are being lower, are going to be reliant on a federal government bailout, which Trump has decided is not such a great idea for places like Minnesota, which allowed these protests to go on, and then they wanted the federal government to bail them out in terms of all the property damage that was done, and Trump told them no, rightfully, because they didn't handle the situation right. Of course, if Sleepy Joe is elected, you darn well know bailouts are going to happen. And that is what they're betting on. By keeping the economy closed, you lessen the chances of a Trump re-election. And what is the potential good of the lockdown? We already have better treatments for the disease. The original lockdown was merely to flatten the curve so that our hospitals did not get overwhelmed. Now we are increasing the number of tests given, so of course you're going to see an increase in the number of cases. Of course, the death rate is going down, which is good, and that's the bottom line. Nevertheless, we want to shut everything down again. COVID is already endemic within our population, within the world. The United States is not an island like New Zealand. It is massive, and no matter what you do, this disease will always be present. Blame China for it. Those frickin' liars who, according to Brett Weinstein, the biologist whose podcast I listen to, states that there is a 90% probability at this point, he estimates, that COVID-19 escaped from a Wuhan laboratory and did not occur naturally, which is why we are seeing the weird effects that it has on human organs. What this lockdown is going to achieve is the decimation of many people, if they are going to pay attention to the lockdown, that is. But I don't believe that anybody's going to anymore because of the hypocrisy of allowing protests, which, and I'm going to go against the political science of it, actually did help spread the virus. Say it isn't so. I'm going against the LA County Board and Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York by stating this. I should be thrown in prison for wrongthink. I believe that this is not so much about the disease and public health. This is primarily about usurping political power and ensuring that Donald Trump isn't going to be elected because you're going to be able to blame Trump for it, for his handling of the disease, despite the fact that that is largely handled on a local level. And you have the media behind you, leftists, to spread that narrative. So what you're going to do is you're going to be creating a great amount of social unrest. You are completely dividing people because of your hypocrisy and the double standards. Double standards. Another lockdown will do very little in terms of preventing the disease from spreading. It will, however, up the number of suicides, the discontent in society, and further divide us. But it won't be seen that way because they are doing so under the excuse of stopping the spread of the virus, which, as I stated previously, is already endemic. It's my belief that there's very little upside to renewing a lockdown and major downsides. It's going to leave us in a bigger mess than we already are economically and politically. And it's my belief that the governor and the politicians of the state, the largest one in our union, are eschewing the public good in exchange for political power. California and Gavin Newsom have gone full retard.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
If you guys like this content, thumb it up and share it. And remember to subscribe. Peace out, everybody. And, maybe it's time to move away from California if you're still there. Peace.